Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to do an initial review on the Atibal SLR-1. Okay, this is a solar powered red dot. Okay, I have it mounted on this palmetto. Okay, and I do have three other solar powered red dots. The other three are from Holosun. So I have two 403Cs and one 503Cs. And I think this is useful because, basically I've been using these for about 8 months. So, I kind of know what I expect from a red dot, and I kind of know what they can do, and it kind of I'm starting to see some of the issues with them. So I think it gives me a good basis to have an initial discussion about this. The real test is going to come 6 months down the road, after the red dot's been used, and we'll see how consistent it is and how reliable it is. But today we're just going to do an initial review. I've got about 2 days of shooting on this, so I think it'll be very helpful to you guys. First thing, they give you a nice case, so that's kind of cool. Now the red dot, right? The SLR-1 comes with the standard riser that you would put on an AR-15. Okay, the riser basically will fit on the Picatinny rail. If you remove the red dot off of the riser, you've got basically it has an aim point base. Okay, so if you have a Midwest rail like this on the AK, basically, I would be able to take that SLR-1 and mount it onto here because it has the, this is set up for aim point. Okay. Now the one, what they don't give you is they don't give you a short adapter. So for example, this is the Holosun over here. Because these the sights on this are low, what I need is I need basically an adapter that will go from the aim point to the Picatinny rail. So Holosun typically gives you this low mount. The Atibal does not. Okay, so that's just important for you guys to know in case you're planning to mount on a gun like this Beretta CX4, or if you use if you have an AK-47 and you use the side rail mount, okay, you're not gonna want to use that riser on the side rail because otherwise the scope will be sitting too high. So you're gonna want to get that low adapter. Okay, so that's important for you guys to know. Other thing that's useful for you guys to know is that it doesn't come with a battery. Atibal usually doesn't give you a battery, but if you're used to buying Holosun typically gives you the battery. And usually, like when I get a Holosun, basically I just take it and I know the battery's going to be there. I know I don't have to stop and buy a battery, but just be aware that you will have to get yourself a battery. It's not a deal breaker, it's not that expensive, but you're going to have to get that 2032 battery. But the good news is that if you do forget, all of these scopes, right, including the new Atibal that I have here, will work without a battery. Okay, so you don't need to actually install the battery. It will work just on solar power. So that's really good, really convenient. Okay, all right, so that's a good thing. Now, let's talk about what we want from a red dot. Okay, or what I've come to want from red dots. First of all, it has to be bright. It has to be bright enough for sunny day shooting. Like today was a very bright day. If it's not bright enough, the red dot's gonna wash out. And one of the tests that I will do, right now the sun's starting to test, but I'll typically point the red dot in the direction of the sun at a tree or something, and I want to be able to make sure that I can see that red dot, which I do. I'll also pick a white surface like this table. All right, and I did this earlier when it was brighter. I want to point the red dot at that white surface and make sure it's bright enough. Okay, so it's got to be bright enough. The Atibal SLR-1 is, but do be aware that the Holosuns are a little bit brighter. Okay, so it's not that big of a difference, but it is a difference. The Holosuns tend, on all these rifles, the red dots are brighter, but this SLR-1 is bright enough. Okay, if I can point it at a white table with the sun beating on it and still see the red dot, it's good enough. The reason why that's important is because, especially if we're doing tactical stuff, we want to be able to come up and find that red dot really quickly. Okay, so that's really important to me. Now from that, let's talk about why I decided to mount it on this palmetto. Okay, this palmetto has the front sight post. Okay, what I typically do is if I'm using a red dot that just has a dot, I want that front sight post, because what happens is if I don't have the circle, okay, I want to use that front sight post as a reference point so I can find my red dot faster when I come up. Okay. On the other hand, if I have a circle dot like I have on this, actually not this one, this one. Okay, this is the 503C. This has the circle dot. Okay, so this rifle does not have a front sight post on it. So because it doesn't have that front sight post, and I don't, I don't have that point of reference, I want to have that big circle, right? This one has a 65 MOA circle. I want to have that big circle so I can find my target, find my dot faster. So I find the big circle, and then in the center of that, I find my little dot. Okay. Now, the Atibal SLR-1 does have the 35 MOA circle. Okay. But here's something that's important for you guys to know, and I've been playing around with this since yesterday. The 35 MOA circle, as far as I can tell, only feeds off the battery. Okay, so if you take the battery out, like I did, you're not going to be able to get that 35 MOA circle. Okay, and when I put the battery in, and I got the 35, I got the circle on. Okay, I think you hold down the negative key for about 3 seconds, and it goes on. When I got it on, what happens is I'm able to adjust the brightness of the circle, right, with the plus negative keys while it's in solar power mode. Okay, but as far as the brightness of the circle itself, when it's in solar power mode, I cannot adjust it. Okay, so that's how I know that when the 35 MOA circle is on and it's in solar power mode, I know that the circle's pulling power from the battery, because when I hit the plus negative keys, it's going, the brightness setting is changing. But at the same time, the dot in the center is not changing, because that's in auto mode. So it's kind of interesting the way that's set up, but that's how it's set up. Now, when you go into manual mode, okay, what happens is everything is now feeding off the battery, and when you adjust the plus negative keys, everything is getting brighter or dimmer. Okay, so why is that important to me? Okay, because here's the thing: with these solar powered red dots, my idea is that I want to be able to keep these running on solar power mode only. Okay, unless I'm shooting at night and I absolutely need to go to them. So I don't in the daytime, I don't want to be using that battery at all. So what that means is, since the 35 MOA circle on this Atibal SLR-1 is pulling power from the battery, what that means is I'm going to keep the circle off. Okay, so by keeping the circle off, I only have a dot, and because I only have a dot, I want to mount it on a rifle that has a front sight post. So that's why I chose not to put this on a flat top, because that's where initially I was planning to put this. I was planning to put this on one of my flat tops, but when I saw that the circle only feeds off the battery, I said, okay, nope, this has to go on a rifle that has a front sight post. Okay, so that's important for you guys to know. Okay, now let's talk about dimness, because here's the thing. Today it's bright. Okay, so when I'm trying to hit a target at a distance, like yesterday I shot this. Actually, I got a pretty good grouping. On that palmetto with that SLR-1, I got a 2-inch grouping, which is actually my best grouping on that rifle. And I zeroed in at 50 yards, and I took it out to 100 yards, and without really trying that hard, I got a 2-inch grouping. I think that was a fluke, because after shooting it a bunch today, I also went back out to the 100 yards. And it basically opened up to 3 inches. It was still zeroed, because I wanted to make sure that the red dot was still zeroed. So it was zeroed, but I just went back to shooting the regular 3 MOA that I typically shoot. So this was just pure luck. I don't think it has anything to do with the red dot, but I did get a 2-inch grouping with this rifle. But the point I wanted to make, and the reason why I'm discussing this, when you are when you're aiming at 100 yards, right, with a red dot, if the red dot is too bright, what's going to happen is it's going to it's going to overwhelm your targets. It's certainly going to overwhelm this, and then it'll basically starburst out to the edges. So we have two conflicting needs here. Okay, on the one hand, when I'm coming up, right, I want a really bright red dot that I can find really quickly. Okay, all right, so it has to be really bright. Okay, that's kind of priority. But at the same time, if I'm shooting out to 100 yards and I'm trying to take really well-aimed shots, I don't want it bright. Okay, so what I typically do with my Holosuns is I will switch to manual mode, right? Now it's feeding off the battery, and I will power it down. I will power it down to the lowest possible setting that allows me to still see the red dot. Okay, so that's how I shoot at distance, right? And then basically once I'm done, I switch back to solar powered mode, and then I have the benefit of that bright red dot, you know, when I'm doing my up drills and I'm moving and shooting and all that good stuff. Okay, now here's the problem. You know, and this may or may not be a problem for you, but it was a bit of a problem for me. When I switched this to manual mode, okay, and I powered it down, you know, in battery mode, right? I switched to battery mode. I powered it down. In its lowest setting, it was still too bright for me, and that was on a cloudy day. Okay, so on a cloudy day, when I switched to manual, in its lowest setting, it was still too bright. It was overwhelming my target at 100 yards. So what I ended up doing is I took painter's tape, right, the blue tape, and I basically just covered the top up, and still through the painter's tape, it was still. I switched it back to solar powered mode, right? So I went to solar powered mode, and I took blue painter's tape, which comes off easy, it doesn't, you know, leave sticky stuff behind, and I covered up the red dot, and that allowed the red dot to dim down low enough so that I could, you know, comfortably hit my target, and that's how I hit. That's how I got this grouping yesterday. Basically, I had painter's tape on top of that red dot so that I wouldn't overwhelm the target, and I was able to hit this 2-inch group at the 100 yard. Now today, you know, yesterday was cloudy. Today is a different story. Today was a lot brighter. So today, same thing, except that in the bright sun, when I put my red dot out there earlier, because right now I can see that it's overwhelming the target in solar power mode, but earlier when the sun was a lot brighter, I was actually able to get that red dot on the paper, and it was actually perfect. It was not overwhelming the target, and the reason for that is what I said earlier, that in its normal setting, the red dot on this SLR is less bright than the one on the Holosun. Because with the Holosun, when I put this at 100 yards, it is completely, you know, it is completely overwhelming the target. The red dot's going past the edges of a 12-inch target that I have there. So again, you kind of have to know what you have and how to work it. Okay. So in this case, since I'm not able to switch into manual mode and power it down on a cloudy day, I had to use some painter's tape or otherwise cover it up. I mean, you can switch to manual mode, but like I said, it just wasn't. Manual mode was not low enough. Okay, so that was my issue with that. When I shot this at night last night, well, here's the thing with the Holosuns at night. Okay, in pitch black, in pitch black dark, I did not have to. I didn't have to switch to battery mode. Okay, just in solar power mode, you know, and again, I don't know where it's pulling power from, whether it has an energy reserve or whatever, but in solar power mode, I was able to see the red dot faint enough, you know, or well enough that I could actually hit targets without, without having to switch to manual mode. With the Atibal SLR-1, what I had to do is obviously as soon as it went dark, or even as soon as I cover this, it goes dead. So what that means is you must switch to battery mode. And what I was finding is that, okay, now let's take a step back now. There's two situations that we are shooting at night. Okay, we are either shooting in a situation where we're using a weapon light, right, or we're not using a light. Okay, so in a situation where I'm using a light, right, where I have a light mounted on the rifle, the red dot needs to be a little bit brighter, okay? Because your light, you know, if your red dot's dim, your weapon light is going to wash out your red dot. Likewise, if you're shooting without a light, like if you're shooting from a dark area into a somewhat dim area, I mean, obviously you don't want to put your light on. Number one, because you don't want to give away your position, but number two, because I mean, you just, you know, I mean, you don't need it. So in that situation, we want the red dot in a low setting. So again, the issue with the Atibal SLR-1 is that in its manual setting, okay, if I'm shooting without a light, okay, without a light, I was not able to get the red dot low enough. The lowest setting was not low enough, and what was happening is that it was completely overwhelming my targets. Okay, so at night the red dot was actually too bright. Now if I turned on a light, then it was perfect. Okay, so it was perfect. So and I really, you know, and I really didn't have a choice. I mean, that's what it was. You know, with the light on, it was good. With the light off, it's overwhelming my target. Now, with the Holosun, what I found is that, you know, if I'm not using a light, then I can just keep it in solar mode, okay, and it's fine. If I know I'm gonna be using a light, then what I need to do is I need to switch it into manual mode, okay, and then I can manually adjust my settings to where I want the red dot to be when the light goes on, okay. So just be aware of that. Again, this is an issue of knowing how the equipment works and making it work for you. You know, the equipment, you know, there's not one thing that's going to kind of read your mind and, you know, do everything that you want it to do. So you have to know what it does, how it does it, and work within the limitations of the equipment. Okay, so and that's kind of the purpose of this video. It's that's why I'm calling it an initial review. I'm not telling you that it's good or bad. I'm just telling you what it does. I don't think I've had my hands on this long enough to really give it a good review. All I'm doing is I'm giving you an operational review. Okay, this is how it works. All right. So that was the issue at night. Yeah, you know, in manual mode, I could not get it low enough, and again, it's also, you know, same thing in daytime. In the daytime, in manual mode, again, I could not get it low enough. So something for you guys to think about. Now, it's actually worth saying. I've had something for you guys to be aware of. These solar powered systems have really not been around all that long. So this is the 503C, the Holosun 503C, and this has the circle dot, the 65 MOA circle dot, and I've had this for about 8 months. Been using it. It's been working well. You know, I have it on this 22 that I like giving to new shooters, and that circle dot makes it really nice so that they can find that circle. But here's the thing: last night while I was doing my night testing, right, I had this, you know, on the ground. I'll put it up here so you guys can see it. I had this leaning on the ground, and as I was moving around, this fell over. Okay, and today I'm seeing some problems. The problems that I'm having is that, first of all, when I pulled it out today and I went to, you know, I went to make this video basically, and I just held it up and I looked at it. Sun was bright, but the red dot was not bright enough. The circle dot was not bright enough, and I tried switching it on and off in solar, you know, from manual mode, solar power mode, going back and forth. I could not, you know, with the sun right above me, I could not get it bright enough. Okay, and there was no cloudy or anything. It was just bright. I could not get it bright enough so that it would not wash out. You know, then basically I got a call. I had to go do some work. I had to run over to somebody's property, do some training. I came back about 2 hours later. I pulled it back out of the safe. Now it's working. You know, it was working. But here's the thing that I found. Sun's in that direction over there, okay? When I'm here, right, I've got enough light. But as I turn this way, and I now got my shadow hitting, you know, on top of me, all of a sudden it's losing that red dot. So for whatever reason, knocking this thing over, you know, I mean, and like I said, it wasn't like I dropped it from here to the ground. I mean, it just got knocked over from there to there. For some reason, it's not working the way it was working yesterday. And I already called up Holosun earlier. They basically, they sent me an RMA. They told me to send it in, and they'll take a look at it and send me another one if they need to. The reason why I'm saying this is that, like I said, this is a fairly new technology, something for you guys to be aware of. That and I don't know, I mean that's the Holosun 503C. I don't know how well this SLR-1 will hold up. Now, I believe that part of the design, part of the intention of this design was to make it a little bit more rugged. One of the things that you'll notice, right, that there's metal covering the caps here, that you would adjust your windage and elevation. And the other thing is that the metal, there's a little bit, the metal that surrounds the solar panel comes up a little bit higher, okay, and basically that would be to, in case this falls to the ground, to kind of protect it. After that experience that I had over there, and I know for a fact that it didn't actually fall on the panel, it just fell over this way. But now that I'm thinking about it, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to raise the side rails even higher to give the solar panel even more protection. So, but this is the thinking that went behind this. They were trying to make it a little bit more rugged, so they put more metal around the caps here to give it more protection. Okay, so like I said, the reason why I mentioned that issue with the 503C and how just by falling over it, it's not working as well today. It's something that you guys need to be aware of. I mean, I've got other red dots that are just not solar powered, just regular battery powered, and I know that they've fallen. And like I said, I don't abuse the guns. It's not like I take them and throw them out of trees, and run them over with cars or anything like that. But they do get normal use. I mean, if you're moving through the woods and you got the rifle in the sling, at some point it's gonna hit the ground. It's gonna fall, and it should be able to survive that type of a test. And at this point, I don't know if the Atibal will or it won't. But that's the thing I'm going to be looking for. Like I said, I'm not looking to abuse it or anything, but it's just got to be able to survive normal use. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else that I should mention to you guys. I think that's it. I'm very glad that Atibal came out with a solar powered red dot, because right now Holosun's really the only other company that's really producing the solar powered red dots. I mean, I know there's one or two other ones out there that are like really, I looked on Optics Planet. I saw one other company, I can't remember its name. But I think that we definitely need a little bit more competition in this area. Really quickly, let's just talk about the price. Part of the reason why I brought these Holosuns out is because they're all kind of in the same price range. Okay. The 403Cs, which are just a dot with no circle, I believe I bought those for about $180, $185. The 503C, which has the circle dot, I believe I also bought that at the time. I bought it for about $200. Yeah, about $200, but they had a whole bunch of specials and stuff like that going on at Optics Planet. They sell it for about $250. So if you go online now at Optics Planet, they sell it for $250. So that's the 503 is $250. The 403Cs are about $200. This Atibal, if you buy it directly from Atibal, I believe they're selling it for $225 right now. Okay, so it kind of falls right in between those two, so it's kind of in the same ballpark. For some reason, when you look at Optics Planet, they're selling it for $350, which makes no sense. But I don't know why Optics Planet would be doing something like that. But if you are interested in buying this, I recommend you go straight to Atibal, buy it from them, for the $225 that they're charging for. In the past, like I have other Atibal red dots that I've tested out in the past. The other ones that I bought, they were, either had a dial or a digital. Those were about $100 to $115. So they were, they were basically in the $100 market. So, when I did the reviews on those, I was a lot more forgiving, because it was, it was just a lot cheaper. So if you're comparing a $100 Atibal to the $150, SIGs and the Holosuns, I mean, you are paying a lot less for the Atibal. So I mean, I thought I was. It seemed like I was getting a great bargain, which I was. But now at this level, where basically everything's kind of in that $220 range, right? That's what these things are averaging out to. I mean, basically for that money, it's gotta be just as good as the others, or better. I mean, ideally we want better. So like I said, this is an initial review. Over the next couple of months, as I'm using this, I will make a follow-up review, and I will do an actual review. Having used this for, I would say, at least 6 months. I'd like to get 6 months behind this before I do an actual review, and that'd be good because we'll be going into the winter months, so we'll get to shoot this through some snow, and now with the fall coming up, there'll be some mud that we're shooting through. Now that doesn't mean I'm throwing the gun into the mud, and like I said, I don't intentionally abuse the red dots, but they do have to work under normal shooting conditions, So these are my thoughts on this. If you guys have any questions, comments, if there's anything that you want me to look into as far as this red dot, or any particular tests you would like me to do, other than abuse, I don't do abuse tests. But any practical shooting exercises you would like me to do, just let me know. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you're not a member, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.